If you plan to use an SBA loan to acquire an existing business, the first thing you may ask yourself is, how do I know what price range to target? Is there such thing as an SBA pre-approval? Hey, I'm Ray Drew, an actual SBA lender, and in this video I'm going to explain what being pre-approved for a business acquisition means and whether it's even a good idea. Most lenders do not offer any sort of pre-approval for business acquisition until you actually have the business identified. And the reason for that is that 60 to 70% of the underwriting is focused on the actual business and the financials. That said, some do offer it. And while it's essentially meaningless, a lot of sellers and listing brokers want to see that they're talking to a qualified person. So it can be helpful to get your foot in the door. Now, I do offer pre-approvals, and when I'm pre-qualifying a buyer, I'm looking for three things. One, they have a history of paying their bills on time. Pretty standard. If you have a 700 plus credit score, you're probably fine. But if you have anything in the past like a bankruptcy or foreclosure, now is the time to disclose it. Doesn't mean you're disqualified, but it could be considered a weakness depending on how recent it was and the story behind it. And there's ways to mitigate weaknesses. There is one thing that will disqualify you, and that is if you've ever defaulted on a government loan in the past, so an SBA loan or an FHA loan or a student loan, for example. Once we've checked the box on credit, the second thing I'm going to want to assess is your liquidity. How much do you have available in the form of cash and other liquid investments? You'll need enough to put in a minimum injection of 10% plus have some post-close reserves. We don't want to drain you down to zero after all, and you probably are feeling the same way. So a common rule of thumb for post-close reserves is to have an amount equal to 6 SBA loan payments sitting in an account somewhere, just in case. So by assessing your cash, we're going to pinpoint the range of purchase price that you should be looking at. And finally, number 3, and this is probably the most important, it's experience. What relevant experience do you have that's going to transfer over to this business that you want to acquire? You should ultimately be looking for businesses that are going to complement your skill sets. And that doesn't mean that you need to have direct industry experience, although that is preferred. But the reality of the situation is that if you're buying a landscaping business, for example, there's a pretty good chance that you aren't a landscaper. But maybe you have experience in a service business, experience managing people, managing a P&L. All of those skill sets will translate nicely to that type of business. Industry experience and/or relevant management experience is absolutely critical when buying a business with an SBA loan. So there you have it. If you found that video helpful and you want more insider tips from an actual SBA lender, I would invite you to click that subscribe button because I've got plenty more where that came from.